Hey guys, Karasif here with Double Review. This time I'll be reviewing the RKF Rider Armor series, Kamen Rider GO, and Build Armor from Kamen Rider GO. These are the first two entries in the Rider Armor series, which is actually a sub-series of a new Kamen Rider standard action figure line called Rider Kicks Figures. So, Kamen Rider GO includes the figure, one weapon, and one alternate hand, and the Build Armor includes the armor itself, which comes in several pieces, one weapon, an alternate build driver, and an alternate face part. So, let's get started. To start, we'll look at Kamen Rider GO. So as I mentioned in the beginning, this guy is part of a new standard action figure line for Kamen Rider called the Rider Kicks Figures. And what this means is that there are going to be a lot of differences between these figure and the figures in the rest of the line compared to previous Rider action figures. For comparison, here is last year's Ball Chain series Kamen Rider Build Rabbit Tank form. So the big difference you see is that the new RKF figures are actually smaller by considerable amount rather. You can see that the way the joints look is quite different. You have a generally different body structure. And the big difference here between these two figures is that one thing that kind of stands out about the Rider Kicks figure series is that all the figures in the line are made using one color of plastic each. In the case of GO, it's all black plastic, and every other color is paint. Whereas with previous lines, like the Ball Chain Rider series, you had some different plastic colors mixed in. Like in this case, we have black, red, blue, and a little bit of metallic. Now getting to GO's build details himself, you can start off with the basic design, which you can see has a general wristwatch motif. Similar to Kamen Rider Wizard, GO has a kind of thing where he incorporates his motif into his head design. In this case, his face is like that of a watch face, but that actually extends down to the body where you have the watch strap extending down the front, and then the rest of the strap extending down the back. So in GO's case, he's based on an analog watch, and while people have said he's specifically based on a Rolex, that's not quite true. He's just based on the style of watches that are generally stainless steel. So you can see the watch face with the different notches, and his antenna are a pair of watch hands, with the outer hand being shorter than the minute hand. Of course, as I showed with the GO Ride watch, he has Kamen Rider written on his face, with Kamen up here and Rider down here. It actually extends out to this dial on the side, which is similar to a watch dial used to change the time. Coming down to the body, it's got a pretty sleek design, with bits of kind of metallic, almost metallic lavender. It's kind of a purplish silver color, with bits of pink thrown in as well. Again, you have the wrist straps that go down the front, and you can see all the connected links. Of course, you have the GQ driver on the belt, and this is just a single solid piece of plastic that is painted all silver. You can see it has a generic ride watch on the side. You have his arms, which each have a ride watch holder, and the straps on that are painted too. You got his elbows and kneecaps, which are the same dial design as on the side of the head, and also have the Kamen characters written in them. Got a little bit of pink striping on the lower legs, and then we have the feet. Again, on the back we have the rest of the watch strap, and you can even see it has the little clip part here on the center of the back. So articulation wise, He's got a ball joint head with a very good range of movement. Arms can go 360 degrees, all the way out 9 degrees. Have a nice bicep rotation and single joint elbows. Then a wrist rotation. Another big difference between the RKF line and previous figures is the hands. No longer do they have the two separate joints that can be bended individually. In this case, they've actually gone with something that's more standard for American action figures, where they have a single hand style that's just molded in a way that can grip onto weapons and other accessories. Now getting down to the body, he has no waist articulation, but instead he actually has an ab crunch. So as you can see, the top part is on a ball joint, so it can be used to move back and forward, side to side, and be used in place of a waist rotation. Which is interesting, because that's the kind of thing that you usually see on more high-end figures like figure arts. So it's actually pretty cool to see that on a standard action figure. And you have the thighs, which go, or the legs which go forward and back, in and out. Have a nice single-jointed elbow joint, or rather single-jointed knee. No thigh rotation. And then ball-joint ankles. So for his accessories, Geo first comes with the Jikan Girade in Ken mode. So you can see it has all of the molded details that you expect. Got the port here, got the Ken writing right there. Got things like the trigger and even things like the release button for the right watches. Though of course it is somewhat hollowed out on the back, as is pretty standard for these types of weapons. Then his other accessory, which is something that is also pretty new to these kinds of figures, is an alternate hand. So this is an alternate left hand. We can just swap out by unplugging the original hand from the joint, then plugging the new one in. And so here we have a hand that lets Geo perform his signature pose, where he has his thumb and index finger in the shape of clock hands. Next we have the build armor. And so with the Rider Armor series, we obviously have two major components, those being the Riders and the Armors, this being the latter. So out of the packaging, the build armor will come in pieces, but one of the cool things about the Rider Armors is that you can actually assemble the pieces to have them be their own display pieces. So, let's take a look at the design just by itself. First up we have the head, which is actually the mask part that will go on to Geo's head. Where we can see that the helmet is basically a merging of the designs of Geo's helmet with Build's rabbit tank form. We can see the striping going down the forehead and the mouth plate. If you take a look at the antennae, you actually see it has the rabbit ear and tank cannon merged with it. Then, for the eyes, it's got Build written in katakana, Birudo. Getting down to the body, we have what's going to be kind of the standard body or standard chest plate for the armors, which will contain, of course, part of the wrist straps going down. Then for the chest, we actually have something representative of the chest of that rider. In this case, we have the red and blue stripes for Build's rabbit tank form. Then you have the shoulders, which are personalized to each rider, or to each rider armor rather. So for the Build armor, there are a pair of full balls, one red and one blue. And you also see that it has the same caution striping that is present on items like the Build driver. Coming further down the body, you see the arm gauntlets, which also have the rider watch holders molded into them. Have where the belt will go. And you have the thighs, which have red and blue in a mismatched order to fit in with the Build theme. And we get to the armored for the lower legs and the feet. Now the cool thing about these armors is that they are, for the most part, reversible. So we have one side for Kamen Rider GO, and the other side is for Kamen Rider Gates. You can see that in this case, it gets rid of all the silver and just kind of replaces it with all black. And while you can see that these colors do not actually transfer over to the back, the fact of the matter is that these are on ball joints, so they can be basically detached and then replaced to fit. Though that's something I'm going to get into more when they actually have the Rider Armor Series Gates figure. Additionally, it comes with this weapon, which is meant to look like the drill crusher, and you see build symbol there. We've got an alternate GQ driver with 2 ride watches. And then we have the alternate face part for Kamen Rider Gates. They'll get more into this when I have the Gates figure. Now this figure on its own, or the armor on its own, has a little bit of articulation, in that, like I said, the shoulders are on ball joints, so you can actually move them around on these joints. And then you have the elbows, which are jointed as well. So you can do a little bit of posing with him, but not too much, as you can see that it's connected, or the leg pieces are connected here, but they don't really allow for much of a movement. And you want to be careful with this, just because it's not exactly the strongest connection keeping the armor together, but it does a pretty good job. Next up is armor time. So let's equip Kamen Rider GO with the build armor. To start, we need to remove the GQ driver from his waist, which will take off this little piece here. Then remove the ride watch holders from his forearms. Next we're going to take the build armor and disassemble it. So we'll remove the mask piece from here, detach the arm pieces, and detach the leg pieces. So going from the bottom, I'm going to take the leg pieces and then use these pegs to connect them to the thigh and calf. Like that. Do the same on the other side. I'll take the arm pieces, connect them using these pegs in here and the holes here where the ride watch holders used to be, making sure that the back of the hand lines up with this inner part. Then we're going to take the chest piece, come around to the back, and we'll open it up like this. Lift up the shoulder pads a bit. Then come over to the figure, place it on the chest. Lower the shoulder pads down. Then swing down the back piece and secure it into place. Then coming to the waist, we'll take the alternate GQ driver and just plug it into here. Then we'll take the weapon and attach it to the hand, like this, and slide it over the knuckle. And finally, we'll take the mask piece and just plug it onto the face. And here we have Kamen Rider GO build armor. So let's take a look. As you can see, adding the armor really changes up the figure quite a bit. It covers up most of the body to where you can really only see the joints, and definitely has quite a lasting impression as it adds a lot of bulk to the figure. You see that the face part goes on very smoothly and covers up the old face very well. The shoulders work out a lot because they actually are able to move like this so they can get out of the way and still allow for good range of motion for the arms. Though the head is a little bit limited because of the size of the mask, but you can still move it around a little bit. Thanks to the joints of the armor, still has that same 90-degree elbow bend, and it does limit the wrist a little bit, though if you kind of take it off or disconnect it a little bit, you can still move the wrist side to side. Unfortunately, it does limit the ab crunch, so you can't really move the body of the figure side to side in tandem with the waist. But it also doesn't limit the waist too much, although unfortunately, because of the way it's designed, it does kind of block the figure from moving the legs outwards when you have it straight down like this, though you can do so when they're lifted up. It also has joints so that the armor can bend along with the knee, though only up to this point, and even has a joint in the ankle so that they can move as well. Of course, we have the weapon, which actually integrates well into the armor, as it connects right here and has a very secure connection. Speaking of weapons, of course we also have the Jikangi Raid that can be plugged into either hand, just like so. And the figure generally grips the weapon pretty well, although it might not be gripping it so well because of the built armor, but there we have an example of what it's like to have the figure holding its included weapon. Of course, we have the back, which is pretty blank, but does have a overall very good look. And it is cool to have this, slightly bulky figure with its armor on that still has a good degree of articulation, even if it is technically more limited than the base figure. It does do quite a good job at letting you have this as a feasibly posable action figure. And if you want to, you could switch it over to the Gates side, though again I'm saving that side for the Rider Armor series Gates figure. And there we go. So overall, with these first two sets, I'd say that the Rider Armor series is off to a pretty promising start. Though for some it might be a little bit jarring to see the quite drastic change between the past Rider action figures and the Rider Kicks figures, I think it is for the better. While they are small, they do have a very good range of articulation, and it's a nice midway point between the older figures and the much smaller Sodo figures. Additionally, with these smaller figures also means a lower price, as one thing that had been happening with the past Rider action figures is that the price had been steadily increasing every couple of years, and it got pretty expensive with the build figures to the point where the BCR figure for Build Rabbit Tank form was actually more expensive than the SH Figuarts Rabbit Tank form. And it's nice to see that they kind of decided to rethink their strategy and go with something different that could make these figures more affordable but also still appealing. Now, the thing about the Rider Kicks figures is that this year they're actually going to have two sub-series. The first is the Rider Armor series, the other one is the Legend Rider series, where we get figures of past riders. Now, the thing about that is that they're actually starting off with the build series, and the first 3 entries are going to be Build, Cross, and Grease. And I'm kind of iffy on buying those ones, just because I don't really want too much overlap in my figure collection. But there will be some figures that have, or are of riders that have never been made into this kind of standard action figure series, and basically forms that were skipped over in the BCR series, and obviously will continue past Build. But I will try to collect at least some of the Legend Rider series, and I'm definitely going to be collecting more of the Rider Armor series. So if you're a fan of Kamen Rider GO and you're looking for a good action figure as well as an armor to equip him with a new form, then I can definitely recommend picking up these two sets. So, next time I'll be reviewing the Trader Machine Splash, Saturday at 6 PM PST. So, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, let me know your thoughts down in the comments, and if you're new and would like to see more, please subscribe and hit the bell icon. And for now, this is Karo50, riding off.